What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Bunch of fun stuff to get into today, including Smash Bros. On the Switch, because there's a rumor that kind of went around yesterday that at least makes a lot of sense and comes from a more credible source than we're used to with Twitter and things like that. And it has an interesting talking point I think you guys will enjoy in the comments down below. And we also got a look at the Media Create sales charts that includes Bayonetta and then the Secret of Mana remake. So let's get started. So Super Smash Bros. Is a series that is missing from the Switch still. A lot of people, if you remember, whenever Nintendo Direct comes up or they're going to do an announcement, people always go, oh, here comes Super Smash Bros. Or you have those bingo cards and Super Smash Bros. Is always somewhere on there for the Nintendo Switch. They always put like Super Smash Bros. DX or something like that, right? Because a lot of people figure it might just end up being a remaster, a remake, if you will, a port with new content from the Wii U and 3DS version. And a lot of people like that version. It's very polished and it worked well enough. So a lot of people are figuring, oh, just bring it over with the same engine and add more stuff to it. And that might be the case here, as Emily Rodgers took to Restera to give us a little bit of a look at what we could expect from Smash Bros. And it possibly releasing this year, saying, unfortunately, I don't have enough information to speculate whether Smash Bros. Will be branded or marketed as a deluxe definitive edition port, a half sequel, or a full sequel. I can only confirm two things. One, a Smash Bros. Title will be announced and released for the Switch later this year. Two, they added brand new content and reworked some of the existing Wii U 3DS content. Now, whether you choose to believe Emily Rodgers or not, she has at least been credible more so than others in the past. I think she's gotten more right than wrong at this point. So whenever she says something like this, it's interesting to see and kind of keep in mind going forward. But a lot of people are starting to kind of believe this because it makes a ton of sense. In this case, they can do something like pull the Wii U 3DS version over. That version sold really, really well on a system that had a very small install base. It's very similar to how Mario Kart did over there. Mario Kart sold over 8 million units on a system that sold, just over 13 million units? It's ridiculous in terms of attach rate for that one and Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers was just behind Mario Kart on the sales charts. But in this case, you bring it over to a system that's still very much growing, and it obviously is going to have a very good attach rate. You're going to sell a ton of Smash Bros. Copies on the Switch. And the interesting thing is, the way you can make Smash Bros. Much different on the Switch than it was on anytime before, is if it comes along at the right time, such as when the online is being introduced, and you actually add a very robust online for it. That could be very interesting. I think that would actually make a lot of people upgrade to the Switch from the Wii U, because the only other thing keeping you on the Wii U at that point, I think personally, probably Mario Maker, but how long until we get Mario Maker and then the Wii U can officially be retired at that point? So Smash Bros. Makes sense. The other thing is, what would they add? Would they add new characters, new levels? Who knows? I mean, maybe the online component is so massive that is like the big new feature. There's a lot of stuff they can do, and if they do bring that out alongside the online service within a month or so maybe this is like an October release and the online comes out in September, you would probably drive a lot of buying to that online service. You have a lot of people sign up for the online service that maybe wouldn't have before because there was nothing really pushing them in that direction as big as a Smash Bros. Sure, Mario Kart's popular, but Smash Bros. Has that serious competition to it that people would probably pay $20 a year to get online, and who knows what they would add. I mean, they could have, I know they have like tournaments and stuff before, but they could really do some cool stuff, I think, with this online. I mean, they're very creative over there. I'm sure they come up with some cool stuff, and you guys could probably let me know what you think they should add down in the comments below, especially if it is this year that it comes out. Would you want new characters? Would you want new stages? I mean, would you want a full single player aspect to it? Let me know, guys, down in the comments. I'm very curious. Next up, let's move over to Sega, because they announced a game that is now coming west that originally released back in Japan on the PS3 in 2014, and that is, of course, Shining Residence Refrain, coming out here to the west, and that is sometime this summer, so summer 2018, and they showed all kinds of cool stuff, including this really nice like slip cover for it that looks really cool, and it is coming to the PS4, Xbox One, PC, and the Nintendo Switch. That's right, I know a lot of people ask for these kind of games to go to the Switch as well. It is also going to the Switch, don't worry, but it's coming to pretty much everything. So if you're interested in this, it is part of the Shining series, of course. It will be an HD remaster. We're still looking for any other information about will new content be added to it or anything, but in this case, people are just excited for it to come out from Japan because it's been stuck in Japan for a while. We heard previously it was going to be coming out on the PS4, it was going to come over west, but they decided, let's put it on everything, including the Switch. So great news. It looks like a cool game. I obviously haven't played it because it's been in Japan. PS3, of course, was region free, but I can't read Japanese, so I'll check this out. And it's cool because I have a choice of all different types of platforms. Probably the Switch to me makes the most sense unless there's some massive issue with it or something. I'll probably just get on the Switch because it's portable as well, has that added feature. But very exciting, especially if you've wanted this game to leave Japan and get localized for a while now. Get excited because it's coming sometime in summer 2018. I also like Sega kind of, in this case, really giving us something cool with the physical edition with that really nice slipcover and everything. Who knows if there's any extra stuff added in as well, but man, I gotta say that physical edition looks really cool. Next up, let's talk about Ys Origins because it is finally being moved over to the Xbox One. In fact, this is the first time the Ys series has ever been on the Xbox at all, from what I can tell, and it's now moving over to the Xbox One in the form of Ys Origins. This, of course, is the game that came out last year on the PS4 and the Vita, and it came out in 2006 on Windows for Microsoft Windows XP. I liked Windows XP. That was a good operating system. But it is now coming out for the Xbox sometime this spring is what they've said. .emo took to Twitter, dropped an entire trailer, and we even got a full press release. It's actually going to have, according to the bottom of this announcement article, it's going to have exclusive content, something that I don't know what they would add to it. But Ys Origins is a very good game. And if you go on Steam, mostly positive, it actually has quite a few 9 and 10 out of 10 reviews. It was good in 2006 and it's still good today. So if you're an Xbox owner, you should be looking at this and saying, maybe I'll give this a try, because the one thing that, in this case of the Xbox brand at all, is Japanese developers don't really see a reason to develop for that system since it really has no presence in Japan. But a game like Ys should sell no matter what system it's on. So if it does show up and you're recommended on Xbox or something, or maybe you think about it and you go look at it, consider buying it. It shouldn't be that expensive. It's $20 on other systems, but consider buying it if you would like to see more Japanese-based RPGs, things like that, show up. Because if no one buys any of these games, especially something like Ys Origins, where they're taking a chance to bring it over to a system that isn't receptive to these type of games, consider buying it. It's worth it, I think, the $20. Obviously, it's rave reviews everywhere. I've played it. It's a good game. Consider buying it. So then it does bring more of these type of games to the Xbox. They don't second guess it. They don't wait for a while or anything. To me, it makes sense. So check it out. That's coming out sometime this spring. I'm actually a little curious to see what they're going to do with this exclusive content because they haven't said anything yet, and maybe they'll add a new piece of story. Who knows? But it could be fun to see. Next up, let's take a look at the Media Create sales charts from last week. This, of course, is the weekend sales in Japan for physical copies. And this chart does have the Secret of Mana remake that we saw. Monster Hunter, of course, is still up there. And it also has Bayonetta. But I'm going to have to drop the chart down a little bit because some people were a little surprised as to where Bayonetta placed. I'm going to kind of talk about that a bit for these Japanese sales charts. But here we go. Number one is still Monster Hunter World. That's right. As we'd expect, right? Currently, physically, it's up to over 1.8 million. It did drop below 100,000 units. It's now at 85,322 for the week. It's probably still going to keep the top for a little bit until another big release comes out, probably starting in the first or second week of March. We'll see, obviously, when Kirby comes out. But then right below that, we see the Secret of Mana remake for the PS4, 36,042. Not a bad debut for it. Splatoon 2, right there at 21,815. Probably never coming off the top 10 charts, to be honest. Over 2 million still. In that case, 12 Fantasia at number 4 with 21,481. That's also on the Vita. So the Vita actually placed in the top 5. That's pretty good. Dynasty Warriors 9 dropped down to 21,180. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe right there at number 6, 19,280. That's probably another one that'll never drop out of the top 10 unless there's another Mario Kart that comes out at some point. The Secret of Mana remake on the Vita at 17,947. Very good to see the Vita. Again, 2 in the top 10. That's pretty cool. The PS4 copy of Cyber Troopers Virtual On, 17,938. Then we have Sword Art Online, Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, Super Mario Odyssey, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and then we get to number 13, that is the Bayonetta Nonstop Climax Edition. That is the one that had 2 physical copies in it, and I have a feeling a lot of people also had this imported possibly out of Japan, since I saw a lot of people on Twitter talking about it and buying it. And that actually sold more than the Bayonetta 2 game that came out at 9,532. So the Ultimate Climax, which is more expensive, 11,694. and then the regular Bayonetta 2, 9,532. None of the hardware places have changed, as you see here, starting with the PS4 at the top, 49,502, still dropping, by the way. It might actually fall underneath of the Switch, fall in a second place by next week, just because the Switch has been pretty steady right around 40,000, and I could see the PS4 actually drop below 40,000 next week. The Switch there, 39,303, 3DS 10,160, the Vita 4,959, and the Xbox One down to 190. But what's interesting is, if you take a look at it life to date, the Xbox One is coming up on that 100,000 mark. So hey, they might actually get to 100,000 units in Japan, which, believe it or not, after what we've seen previously, that's mildly surprising. Okay, so I know what people are thinking. They're looking at it and they're saying, what happened to Bayonetta here? Why didn't it do better? It didn't even place in the top 10. And you're technically correct, but there are some issues that they had here. One, Bayonetta 2 was very expensive for not coming with Bayonetta 1. That's right, we in the US, outside of Japan, got Bayonetta 1 with our Bayonetta 2 copy that we purchased, but pretty much everyone talked about how Bayonetta 2 in Japan was basically the same price, and it didn't come with Bayonetta 1 at all. In fact, the Ultimate Climax Edition makes more sense to buy, because if you're a big Bayonetta fan, it's really cool looking setup, and it comes with the first game. So it's very weird that they didn't include it. I'm not really sure why that's the case. You also may be more inclined to go online and buy it digitally, because if they didn't get the Ultimate Climax Edition, they would have been forced to just buy it digitally. Or if they were smart, they maybe went over to the US eShop, since the system's region free, and just buy Bayonetta 1 and 2 there for $60 digitally, and you're good. That's it. That's probably what I would have done, to be honest. So I at least understand why it wasn't in the top 10 to a degree. I do think it's mildly disappointing to not see it get there, but of course, we saw it with Shadow of the Colossus. The Japanese market is not super excited most of the time for remasters, right? Or ports even, things like that. They don't get like crazy excited. I think a lot of people in the United States, or at least around me on Twitter, were really excited. It's a great game, trust me. A lot of people I know bought it, even if we had it on the Wii U, like myself, I had it on the Wii U, still bought it on the Switch because it's a cool experience to have it portably, but we're going to see this with some ports. Mario Kart 8 is like the biggest exception to the rule. It's Mario Kart, it sells. But in this case, it just wasn't for Bayonetta. Now listen, the Wii U version, I think topped out just over 50,000. So unless this completely drops off the chart, like if it's not on the chart next week, maybe it won't get there, but there's a chance that it at least matches the Wii U physically, and then digitally might be another story, as we saw it placed very well in a lot of the eShops. If you take a look, it's number 1 in certain eShops, like it was number 1 and 2, I think, at one point on the US eShop, placed okay in the European, the UK sales charts, so it's not like it's a complete bust or anything. It's just, it wasn't Bayonetta's time here in the physical media crate sales charts. And our last bit of news, let's talk a bit about Panic Button. We know them pretty well now. They, of course, ported over things like Doom, they ported over Rocket League, and they're currently working on Wolfenstein 2. But in an interview recently with Gamasutra, they talked to them a bit how they are pretty much overloaded with work at this point, and everyone's beating down their door to get stuff ported to systems like the Switch for the most part, but other ones as well, saying, you know that meme with the dog drinking from a sprinkler? That's me right now. We might have some other titles for the Switch, and maybe some other games for other platforms in the works. Now, in this interview, they were talking to porting companies who are kind of working around the Switch, and how the Switch has helped a lot of these companies really take off more than they were before the Switch showed up, and Panic Button seems to pretty much say just that. Listen, the Switch shows up, we did they didn't really say it, but they did a good job with Doom. I know people, trash on Doom and everything on the Switch because it's half the frame rate, low resolution. Listen, they did a good job getting that game from a PS4 and an Xbox One that didn't always hold 60 frames, and move it to a system that's running on a mobile chipset and at least have it playable. And after that, I mean, Rocket League turned out okay. It was the resolution kind of fuzzy, but then they fixed it more and more. And they're definitely good at porting things to lesser hardware mobile chipsets, something like the Switch. So of course, everybody who wants their stuff on the Switch, it's probably cheaper, honestly, to pay them rather than have an internal studio do it. So it's pretty cool to see this, and it sounds like with what they're saying, they are getting a lot of requests for a lot of games. In fact, they're at a point where they're kind of picking and choosing what they want to do. So it sounds like there are going to be more ports coming to the Switch. What will be coming to the Switch? Well, it's hard to say. But Panic Button's done a good job. In fact, most ports that I see their stamp on, I feel a little better about it, because it's clear that they've stuck with Rocket League, they've stuck with Doom. We just got that Doom update, and I'm very comfortable. If Rocket League and Doom turn out the way it did, like they have, yeah, let them port whatever they want because it's probably going to turn out pretty good. And I would like to see some bigger ones. People, when I talked about this on Twitter, people were talking about things like Fallout 4. Yeah, that's possible. They could be working on that now for all we know. So we'll have to see what they have. Maybe Rockstar went out and said, hey, would you guys like to port Grand Theft Auto 5? It's all possible because they've pretty much proven themselves. So let's see what we have this year coming up, because we've kind of heard from some other insiders and stuff that this will be a very port-heavy year, and it sounds like, at least in this case, Panic Button might be a part of that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Newswave today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, guys. Really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave a bunch of comments down below about everything we talked about today. Whether it is, maybe you're really excited to see Shining Resonance come over, in this case, to the US. Maybe you're ready to buy it. And also let me know what system you're buying it on, because that's kind of interesting that it hasn't come over until now, and then when it does, it's on everything. Pretty cool to see. And also let me know what you think about Smash Bros. On the Switch. Do you think this holiday is the best time to do it? And maybe they were waiting for that online to come out and be pretty much fully prepared, because Smash Bros. Might even be directly linked to it with a fully robust online. Let me know what you think of that, because they could do some big things, I think, with Super Smash Bros. Online. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.